We're going to work with changing colors and using some of the adjustment panel in order to create some nice color work in here, as this image is quite yellow. And we're also going to look at lights and darks and working with our levels panel. And these are very, very simple things that we can do in order to do some color correction of photography, or in this case, a painting. So where you find this menu is under Image Adjustments. So one of the things that we've been working with is hue saturation. So Image Adjustments, hue saturation, or Control U. And we can simply change the color by dragging the hue saturation slider in order to get whatever color we want. Now in this particular case, she's quite yellow, but we don't want to alter everything in this scene. So you actually have control over which color you correct. So if I come out of the master, which changes all the colors at once in this list, I can go into the yellows. And I can change simply the yellow color in this. And notice that the other colors don't change as much. So Photoshop is smart and it's trying to read those colors as what they are based on what it can read. So here we go. I'm going to increase that a little bit more to the right. I can desaturate the yellow a bit. There we go. So it's not as intense in the yellows. And then if I really want to, I can start going into some of the other colors. Now green, funny enough, isn't always read as green. Green is made up of blue and yellow if you take a look at your color theory. So blue and yellow makes green the secondary color. And sometimes when we reduce that yellow, you can see we also detensified the greens. So we might actually, so even though it says green, it's not doing anything to my greens because it's reading it mostly as yellow. So I might have to see if I can make some corrections in the cyans. I'm not going to get very much here. That's okay. What if I want to intensify the reds here? So I can go into the reds and up here. And I can change, wow, the reds. That really does read a lot of red. So what Photoshop is doing is it's reading each pixel to find out how much of that color is included in those pixels. All right, so if I click OK on what I've done here, and I do a Control Z, we can see a before and after, before and after. So I've just detensified the amount of yellow in here. But what if I want to lighten up some things in here? So she's got quite a bit of light happening on her forehead and her chest here, but we don't have a lot on her hands. So if we go under Image Adjustment again, this time we can go under Levels. And let's see what happens when we simply drag these sliders in. Now you can see that this image, by this mountain range here, it has a lot of black in it. And you can see that because we can see that this mountain range here is very intense in its blacks. And if we move that to the right, we just make it quite a bit darker. If we take the white slider on the right and drag that in, we can increase the amount of whites in here. The problem is the more you go, the more we call this blowout when that gets too white. So, and we've already bypassed all of this great information here. So we can go in a little bit, remove a little bit of it in order to intensify some of the whites if we wish. Then we have this thing called the midtone slider, which helps open up shadows or closes them down. So if we take this midtone slider and drag it towards the blacks, you can see, look how it opens up all of these shadows in here. So if I click OK right now and do before and after, Control Z, you can see a lot more detail where we didn't see it before. We can actually see the edge of her shoulder where we didn't see it before. Okay, you can see in rebuilding that, you can see the content aware is also duplicated a bit of her shoulder here. So we could always clone that out. So I'll show cloning in another video. So if I go back into levels again, it starts from where I left off. So you can see now we do have some imagery in here. And we can play around with this once again and make further changes. So this time before and after. Okay, I like that a lot better. So now I'm ready to go. I've made simple corrections by just simply using the hue saturation slider and the levels. Right? If you want to make it look black and white, but don't actually change it to black and white, we do have modes here. If you change it to grayscale, it removes all the color, but you can make it look like it's removing the color by going under Image, Adjustments, and just simply desaturating it. And you could use the hue saturation slider to also desaturate. So now it looks black and white, but you still have all the color available to you if you want to bring any of that back. So you can file save as your picture accordingly. Next lesson will be learning how to use the clone stamp.